Hey everyone, Steven from The Master Actor here. This week I want to talk to you guys about story structure. So as actors, we're storytellers. So it's really important and beneficial to really start to get a grasp of the basic building blocks, the basic understanding of the infrastructure of how stories are told. So today we're going to go through the 5 core elements of what comprise a story. Now, there are many different infrastructures of story. There's 3-act structure, there's 5-act structure. There's many approaches that we could take. What we're going to do today is really boil it down into its core common denominators that we're really going to be able to see in almost every story we ever tell. These 5 elements are going to be there. So the first core principle of storytelling is what's called setup. Now in a screenplay, this is typically between the first 10 and 15 pages, and this is where we really get a glimpse into our character, how they're living right now in their day-to-day life. We get to see the circumstances and conditions of their life. We get to see some of the relationships and maybe some of the basic conflicts that they're experiencing. Joseph Campbell called this in his hero's journey what's called the ordinary world. Our hero as they're existing right now. But of course, because story is all about change and conflict, this is going to change. The second core principle of storytelling has to do with that call to action. It's what we call the inciting incident. It could be called call to action. Our character is going along in his ordinary world and something happens. Something happens in his world that shakes him up and forces him or her to go after something. This is where our character's super objective is born. This is where the spine of the entire character's story and journey begins. Something comes into this character's world that shakes them up, that is going to force them out of their ordinary world, that's going to compel them into action, that's going to develop, like we say as actors, we call that our super objective, and is going to force them onto a new trajectory. Now, the third core principle that we're going to explore as storytelling is what's called rising action. So we have our character, we've seen them in their ordinary world, an exciting incident comes into their experience that develops them into a call to action, something they have to go after and obtain. And rising action simply means that our character, as they're going after their super objective, they are confronted with one obstacle after another. And it's forcing them, it's driving their emotional stakes up. It's forcing them to try different tactics to get to what it is that they're trying to achieve. In the rising action, this is where our scene construction really starts to come in. That scene by scene, our character is desperately attempting to get that to that super objective that has been defined in the inciting incident. And so as they're attempting to get it, the rising action dictates that more and more stakes are being piled on, more conflict, because really what we do when we watch a story is a character is attempting to get something, our protagonist, and they are thwarted. They are hitting obstacles from stopping them, and we have to watch them emotionally and action-wise adapt and adjust to see if they're going to obtain it. Our fourth core principle of storytelling is climax. So we've witnessed and we've been with our character. We know what it is that they're trying to get. Our climax is the moment when either one of two things happen typically. They get what it is that they've been seeking, or they don't get what it is that they've been seeking. They fail. Now, typically we would call that a tragedy. If they do win, typically we call that a hero's journey. There are other variations of these two themes, obviously, but generally speaking, in the climax, that is when the rising action has been building to where our character either wins or is ultimately thwarted and fails. So our fifth core principle is what we call resolution or falling action. Sometimes people call it. And this is just really us buttoning up the rest of the story. It's typically very short because all of our conflict has been resolved. We've hit the climax. We know whether our character has either gotten or not gotten what it is, their super objective, what it is they've been seeking. So this is really the last bit of the story where we kind of have an epilogue, if you will, and we tie together all of the story. So these 5 fundamental principles are going to go a long way for you as an actor. If you just really, as you're reading something, start to put eyes on this. start to really let this start to function within you, because I promise you, you're going to start to see as you read more and more material, and it's super important as actors that you understand this. You have to read material. You must read scripts and plays. In The Master Actor, we work on one full-length play every month along with one full-length screenplay. So every single month we are working on a full-length play, a full-length screenplay. We're extracting scenes from those and we're breaking all of that down. So being exposed to material and reading material is going to go a long way in you starting to understand this core infrastructure, because the more that you read material, the more that you're going to start to see, yeah, these 5 basic elements, these 5 basic principles really do lie at the core of storytelling. And the more I can understand that and associate that with my acting, because what I've done in the 10 fundamental principles of acting in The Master Actor is I've taken the essence of what story is and I've applied those principles, those core principles of acting to it so that they mesh. Because if in every single story, like we're talking about in the inciting incident, a super objective is born, right? We're going to want to work on that as actors, right? If, as we're moving towards obtaining that, we are being received, we are being thwarted, we are encountering obstacles, we're going to want to start to learn how to identify that and put our fingers on that as actors and start to emotionally get a handle on how that functions. If, as we're receiving those obstacles, we are forced to adjust and try new tactics, right? Take new actions, new tactics. As actors, we're going to want to build that into our understanding. We're going to build that into our preparation phase. We want to start to really be able to identify how our characters go about getting what they want, how they're attempting to win. Because in scene by scene, we are trying desperately by scene's end to win an objective. And as we build each of those scene objectives, they should be carrying us closer and closer and closer to winning what we call ultimately, like we talked about, our super objective. So I hope you guys are well. I hope your creative journey is going amazing. If you're interested in The Master Actor, please check us out at themasteractor.com. It's got all the details about the program. Please know that the first lesson is always free. I really want to ensure that this resonates. I created The Master Actor to really help people, to really empower actors so that they can really gain clarity on their craft and ultimately give their greatest performances. So I hope you guys are well, and I'll talk to you next week.